I walked into the house, shutting the door behind me with the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones. It had been another long day, another 12 hours poured into keeping our lives comfortable, our home running, our future secure. I wasn't expecting fireworks when I got home. I wasn't expecting Vanessa to run into my arms like we were in some romantic movie. But I also wasn't expecting this. She was on the couch, legs stretched out, scrolling through her phone like I didn't exist. Not even a glance up. I dropped my keys on the counter, loosened my tie. Hey. Nothing. Not even the courtesy of an acknowledgement. I swallowed down the irritation. You want to maybe spend some time together tonight? My voice was even, casual. I wasn't begging. I wasn't desperate. That was when she finally looked up. And I wish she hadn't. She smirked. A slow, deliberate smirk, like she had just won something. Like she enjoyed this. Not tonight, she said, her tone light, almost mocking. Then she added, with a cruel little shrug, or any night. I just stood there, staring at her, something inside me snapping into sharp, painful clarity. This wasn't just rejection. This wasn't exhaustion or stress or one of those phases couples go through. No, she liked this. She liked seeing me stand there, waiting, hoping, only for her to deny me. She liked the power of it. The control. I exhaled, slow and measured. If she expected me to argue, to plead, to fight for her affection like a dog scrambling for scraps, she was in for a disappointment. I nodded once. Got it. That was all I said. No anger. No desperation. Just an understanding. A shift. She barely even noticed. She was already back to scrolling, thinking she had won. She had no idea. I turned and walked away, something cold and calculating settling in my chest. If she wanted me to feel powerless, she had just made a critical mistake. Because power isn't something you're given. It's something you take. The next morning, I woke up before the alarm. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because something in me had clicked into place last night, and I wasn't about to waste another second of my life waiting for Vanessa to allow me to feel wanted. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, feeling the strange, quiet shift in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was something colder, something clearer, like stepping outside on a winter morning and feeling the sharp bite of the air wake you up completely. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to wait. I was just done. By the time Vanessa dragged herself out of bed, I was already dressed and tying my shoes. She looked at me through half-lidded eyes, still groggy, stretching like a cat. "You're up early," she muttered. I didn't answer, just finished tying my laces and stood up, rolling my shoulders. "You going somewhere?" she asked, rubbing sleep from her face. I grabbed my keys. Yeah. That was all I gave her before I walked out the door. That was the first morning of my new routine. I joined a gym. Not one of those fancy boutique ones with Instagram influencers posing in the mirrors, but a real gym. A place that smelled like sweat and effort, where the weights clanked and the air hummed with the quiet determination of people who didn't need an audience. At first, I could barely keep up. My body protested every movement, my muscles weak from years of neglect. But I pushed through. I showed up. Day after day, I started dressing better. Not in some dramatic, midlife crisis way. Just sharper. Clothes that actually fit me. A fresh haircut. A scent that lingered when I walked past people. I started staying out later. Not for some wild rebellion. Not to make her jealous. Just because I had things to do. I took on new projects at work, started networking, built connections I had neglected before. The overtime added up. My bank account grew. I was building something. A version of myself that didn't need her approval. And for a while, Vanessa didn't notice. That was the most telling part. She was so confident in her control over me that it didn't even occur to her that I could change without her permission. She'd come home to an empty house and not even blink. She'd see me pulling on my jacket at night and barely raise an eyebrow. She assumed I was still orbiting around her, still waiting in the wings, still hoping for her to decide when I was worthy of attention again. But I wasn't waiting anymore. And the best part? She had no idea. The first time Vanessa actually noticed was a Thursday night. I remember because I had just wrapped up a brutal session at the gym, legs shaking, shirt damp, adrenaline still buzzing in my veins. Instead of heading straight home like I used to, I made a detour. I grabbed a late dinner at a steakhouse downtown. Just me, my meal, and a bourbon on the rocks. No rush, no texts asking when I'd be home. No need to check in. By the time I walked through the door, it was past 10. Vanessa was on the couch, wearing one of those oversized shirts she liked to sleep in, legs tucked under her. She looked up from her phone, glancing at the clock before letting her gaze slide back to me. "You're late," she said, more statement than question. I set my keys down and kicked off my shoes, barely looking at her. "Yeah." She waited, expecting more. When I didn't offer anything, she pressed, tilting her head slightly. "Where were you?" It was subtle, but something in her tone had shifted. The casual indifference she used to have, the smug confidence. It wasn't completely gone, but there was a new edge to it now. A hint of something else. I shrugged, walking toward the kitchen to grab a bottle of water. Out. That was all I gave her. Nothing more. Silence stretched behind me. It was the kind of silence that used to mean I'm done talking, but you're supposed to fill in the rest. Except I didn't. I took a slow sip of water, waiting to see if she'd push further. She didn't. Instead, she let out a soft exhale, like she was brushing it off. Like it wasn't a big deal. "Okay," she said, her voice light, dismissive. But when I turned back around, I caught it. The flicker of something in her eyes. The faintest crease in her brow. Annoyance. Not worry, not concern, annoyance. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't reporting to her like some obedient, lovesick fool. For the first time, I wasn't standing there, explaining myself, giving her the satisfaction of knowing exactly where I was and why. And she didn't like it. She still thought she had control. Still thought that whatever game I was playing, she was the one holding the leash. But it was the first crack, the first shift. And cracks, they always spread. The real shift didn't happen overnight. It built slowly, creeping into the edges of our marriage like a crack in the foundation. Small at first, then spreading, deepening, unstoppable. It started at the gym. I had been going consistently for weeks now, and it was showing. The soreness in my muscles had stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like progress. My shirts fit differently, my posture straightened, and for the first time in years, I actually felt strong. Physically, mentally, in ways I hadn't realized I'd lost. And other people noticed. "Damn, man, you're putting in work," one of the regulars at the gym said, clapping me on the back as we stood by the free weights. "Looking sharp, Mark," a woman at the office mentioned in passing, her eyes flickering over me just a second longer than normal. It was subtle, but I caught it. The extra glances, the small smiles, the lingering conversations. I wasn't invisible anymore. And Vanessa? She finally started noticing too. Not directly, not at first, but then it happened. We were at a friend's party, one of those casual backyard get-togethers where the guys huddled around the grill and the women gossiped over cocktails. I was standing with a beer in hand, listening to some guy drone on about his new investment property when I felt eyes on me. I turned just in time to see one of Vanessa's friends, Lisa, grinning at me from across the patio. "Mark," she called out, loud enough for Vanessa to hear. "I don't know what you've been doing, but damn, you're looking good these days." It wasn't flirtatious, not exactly. Just a casual observation. An offhand comment. But I saw the way Vanessa's head snapped up. She let out a small laugh, shaking her head as if Lisa had just said something ridiculous. "Oh please, he's just finally stopped living in hoodies and dad jeans." Lisa smirked, sipping her drink. "Well, whatever it is, it's working." Then she winked at me before turning back to her conversation. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Because when I glanced at Vanessa, I saw it, the shift. It was fast, barely there, but I caught it. A flicker of something in her expression. Not amusement, not confidence. Something sharper, something closer to unease. For the first time, she wasn't rejecting me. She was realizing something. That while she had spent months pushing me away, someone else might be waiting to pull me in. It started small. Little things. At first, I almost didn't notice. Almost. Vanessa wasn't the type to admit she felt anything unless it benefited her. She liked control. She liked being the one to dictate the terms, to keep me in a box labeled safe, predictable, mine. But something had shifted, and now she was testing the waters. The first test came on a Friday night. I walked into the house after work, freshly showered from the gym, feeling that deep, satisfying ache in my muscles. I was already pulling out my phone to check dinner reservations when I noticed her standing in the kitchen, dressed up, not casual, not in her usual leggings and oversized sweater. No, this was intentional. A fitted black dress, hair done, makeup flawless. She leaned against the counter, tilting her head just slightly. "You're home late," she said, voice light, almost teasing. I set my keys down. "Yeah." Her eyes scanned me, waiting. I knew exactly what she wanted, a reaction, a glance, a compliment, some sign that she still had me under her thumb. I didn't give her one. Instead, I grabbed a glass, filled it with water, and drank. Calm, unbothered. When I looked up, she was watching me, her lips parting slightly like she was about to say something, but she stopped herself. Test failed. The second test came 2 nights later. I was pulling on a crisp button-down, adjusting my watch, about to head out. Vanessa, who usually couldn't care less about my schedule, suddenly had questions. "You going somewhere?" she asked, standing in the doorway. I buttoned my cuff. "Yeah." She frowned slightly. "Oh, I was going to make dinner." She wasn't. She hadn't cooked in months. I glanced at her, one brow lifting slightly. "That's so." She hesitated, then forced a casual shrug. "Yeah, thought we could eat together." I let a beat of silence stretch between us. Then I smiled. Not cruel, not smug, just amused. "That's sweet," I said, grabbing my jacket. "But I already have plans." I didn't wait for her response. I just walked past her, my cologne lingering in the air as I left. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. In her mind, I was still the man who would jump at any crumb of attention she threw my way. The man who would cancel plans if she so much as hinted at wanting me around. She still thought she had me wrapped around her finger. She had no idea how far she'd already lost me. It happened on a Wednesday night. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone, winding down after another long day. My body felt strong, my mind clear. I had carved out a life outside of her, outside of this house, outside of whatever power game she thought she was playing. I barely noticed when she walked in. She was wearing one of those satin slips she used to pull out when she wanted something. It had been a long time since I'd seen it. A long time since she'd made even the smallest effort. She stood there in the doorway for a second, like she was giving me a chance to react, to notice. I didn't. She stepped closer. The bed dipped slightly as she sat beside me. I felt her hand slide along my arm, soft, deliberate, a touch meant to reignite something she had spent months killing. "I missed this," she murmured, voice low, practiced. I set my phone down. Slowly. Then, just as gently, I reached down and removed her hand from my arm. "Not tonight." Her breath caught, just for a second. Then she let out a short, breathy laugh, like I had just told some kind of joke. "Come on, don't be like that," she said, her fingers reaching for me again. I stood up. She blinked. "Mark." "I'm heading out," I said, grabbing my jacket. Confusion flickered across her face, barely masked by that forced smirk she always wore when she felt her control slipping. "Where are you going?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just walked to the door, pulled it open, and left. The last thing I heard before the door clicked shut behind me was silence. For the first time, she was the one being left behind. For the first time, she had no idea where I was going. And that scared her more than anything. Vanessa always thought she was in control. For months, she had played her little game, keeping me at arm's length, watching me dangle, waiting for my attention like it was a prize I had to earn. But now she was the one reaching, and I wasn't reaching back. The shift wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, subtle, a creeping realization that must have started as an itch in the back of her mind, something she dismissed at first. But then it grew, because I wasn't fighting with her. I wasn't angry. I wasn't begging. I was just gone. I still lived in the house, but I wasn't there. My mind, my energy, my attention, all of it had shifted. And that scared her. I noticed it in small ways at first. She started watching me. When I got home late, she'd glance at the clock, then at me, like she wanted to ask where I'd been but couldn't bring herself to admit she cared. She started testing little boundaries. A brush of her hand when she walked past me. A casual, "Hey, how was your day?" And when I answered, polite, emotionless, non-committal, her face would tense, just for a second. But the real proof? The first real sign she was slipping? She went through my phone. I knew the second I came out of the shower. She was sitting on the bed, my phone in her lap, her expression carefully neutral. I took my time drying off, pulling on a shirt, watching her from the corner of my eye. She thought she was being smart. Thought she could find something. A name, a message, a missed call that would explain what was happening. I walked over, picked up my phone, and unlocked it without a word. Scrolled through my messages. Work, gym, investment updates. A few harmless conversations with people I'd networked with. No late-night flirting. No secrets. No other woman. Just a man with his own life. And that shook her more than anything else ever could. Because if I was cheating, she could fight for me. She could scream, cry, demand answers. But this was worse. She wasn't losing me to someone else. She was just losing me. And she had no one to blame but herself. The desperation was setting in. I could feel it. The little tests weren't working. The casual touches, the forced smiles, the sudden interest in my day, it was all falling flat. I wasn't giving her what she wanted. And that was driving her insane. Then, one evening, she made her move. I had just gotten home from a long day. The usual. Work, gym, a few hours out. Not rushing, not explaining. I walked in, grabbed a drink from the fridge, and was about to head upstairs when I saw her. She was sitting at the dining table, a candle flickering, her laptop open in front of her. And the second I stepped in, she straightened up, a bright, almost too eager smile spreading across her face. "Hey," she said, shutting the laptop. I nodded, sipping my drink. "Hey." She hesitated, just for a second. Then she went for it. "So, I was thinking." She leaned forward, elbows on the table. "We should get away for a bit. Just us. A long weekend, somewhere nice." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah. Yeah," she said quickly, like she didn't want to lose momentum. "I already looked into it. There's this amazing place by the lake, private cabins, good food, no distractions. We could just reset." She was watching me carefully now, waiting for that flicker of excitement, for me to jump at the chance to spend time with her, to fix things. I set my drink down, smiled, and said, "I already have plans that weekend." I don't think she even breathed for a full 5 seconds. Her face didn't fall, not right away. But I saw it. The stiffening of her jaw, the way her fingers tensed against the table, the split-second war between "I don't care" and "oh my God, I'm losing him." She forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "Oh, okay. With who?" I shrugged, picking my drink back up. "Does it matter?" And that was it. That was the moment she knew. She wasn't part of my life anymore. She wasn't part of my plans. She had spent months pushing me away, and now, I had finally walked. And for the first time, she had no idea how to pull me back. It happened late at night. I had just come home, tossing my keys on the counter, when I saw her. Vanessa was standing in the middle of the living room, waiting. No phone in her hand, no smug little smirk, no feigned indifference. Just waiting. She looked different. Not in the way she dressed or did her hair, but in the way she held herself. There was no arrogance now, no game playing, no silent taunts. Just hesitation. Just uncertainty. For the first time in a long time, she was the one afraid of what I might say. "I think we should talk," she said, voice quiet. I let out a slow breath. Not out of frustration, not out of anger. Just exhaustion. "Now you want to talk?" Her lips parted, then closed. She swallowed hard, shaking her head slightly. I didn't realize." She took a small step forward. "I miss you." She said it softly, carefully, like she was afraid it might shatter between us. And maybe it would have, months ago. Maybe if she had said those words back when I was still fighting, back when I was still waiting for her to see me, they would have meant something. But now? Now they were just words. I looked at her for a long moment, let the silence stretch. Then, with a calm, easy smile, I said, "Not tonight, or any night." Her breath hitched, her eyes widening slightly, like she hadn't expected that. Like she still thought she had some kind of hold over me. I walked past her without another word, feeling the weight lift off my chest. Behind me, she didn't move. didn't call after me. She just stood there, silent. Because for the first time, she truly understood what she had done. And she knew it was too late to fix it. The night air was cool as I drove, the hum of the engine steady beneath my hands. I didn't rush. I didn't need to. The weight that had been pressing down on me for months, years, even, was finally gone. No tension. No resentment. No waiting for validation from someone who had spent so long making sure I never got it. As I turned onto a quiet street, a different kind of feeling settled in my chest. Not relief. Not even victory. Just peace. I pulled into the driveway of a house that was mine. Not ours. Not something I had built with Vanessa, something she could manipulate or take for granted. No, this was something I had done for myself. A clean slate. A fresh start. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. The air smelled like fresh paint and new furniture. No traces of old fights, no ghosts of past disappointments. It was my space. My rules. My life. I walked into the kitchen, rolling my shoulders, letting the silence settle around me like a warm coat. I grabbed a glass, poured myself a drink, and leaned against the counter, savoring the moment. And then, a voice behind me. Took you long enough. I turned, smirking as I saw her sitting on the couch, one leg tucked beneath her, a knowing smile on her lips. Someone who had been there, quietly supporting me, seeing my worth long before Vanessa ever bothered to notice it was slipping through her fingers. Not a rebound. Not some desperate fling. Just someone who respected me. Valued me. I took a sip of my drink, exhaling slowly. Vanessa had spent so long thinking she held all the power. She never realized. I had it all along. And now? I was never looking back.